As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the winding road, David felt a chill run down his spine. He had been traveling for days, his journey taking him through dense forests and desolate fields. But now he had arrived at a quaint village that felt strangely out of place. The village of Harrowbrook, as the weathered sign at the entrance proclaimed, was a picture, perfect setting, straight out of a postcard. The cobblestone streets were lined with charming cottage, their thatched roofs and white picket fences exuding an old-world charm that was hard to resist. But something about Harrowbrook felt off. The air was thick with an eerie stillness, and the villagers, with their solemn expressions, seemed to avoid eye contact. A sense of foreboding gnawed at David's insides, making him question his decision to stop here for the night. His curiosity got the best of him, and he checked into the only inn in the village, the Black Crow Inn. The innkeeper, a gaunt man with sunken eyes, handed David a rusty key and offered a half-hearted smile. "Enjoy your stay, traveler," the innkeeper said in a voice that sent shivers down David's spine. David settled into his room, the creaking floorboards and dimly lit lanterns adding to the ambiance of a place that felt more like an ancient crypt than an ancient crypt. The bed was hard, and the blankets seemed to carry the weight of centuries of secrets. As he lay there, trying to shake off the unease, he couldn't help but overhear hushed conversations in the hallway outside. "The outsider is here. It's his arrival that brings this curse," a voice whispered. "It's been years since the last one," another voice replied. David's mind raced with questions, but fatigue eventually overcame his curiosity, and he drifted into an uneasy sleep. Each morning, David awoke with a sense of dread that seemed to grow stronger with each passing day. The villagers moved about their daily routines, but their eyes remained vacant, devoid of warmth or familiarity. The narrow streets and charming cottages now felt like the stage of a sinister play. Over the course of the week, David noticed something peculiar. Each day, a new building would disappear without a trace. It was as though some malevolent force was erasing them from existence. The building's sudden absence left behind nothing but empty lots, as though they had never existed in the first place. Intrigued and increasingly uneasy, David decided to investigate. He began by inquiring about the disappearances, first with the innkeeper, who offered cryptic and evasive answers. "Buildings come and go in Harrowbrook. It's always been that way," the innkeeper mumbled. Unsatisfied with the response, David approached the locals in the village square, but their reactions were equally enigmatic. They spoke in riddles, hinting at ancient curses and restless spirits, but refused to provide a straight answer. One evening, David ventured into the village's tiny library, hoping to find some written records of Harrowbrook's history. To his surprise, the shelves were almost bare, and the few books that remained had pages torn or were covered in dust and grime. It was as if someone had gone to great lengths to erase the village's past. Undeterred, David continued his investigation. He observed the village closely, watching for any signs of unnatural occurrences. He noticed the villagers gathered in hushed groups near the outskirts of the village, their faces stricken with fear, curiosity getting the better of him. He followed them one night as they walked into the dark forest that surrounded Harrowbrook. David trailed the villagers through the dense woods, his footsteps muffled by the fallen leaves. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the distant sound of rustling leaves. He soon found himself standing at the edge of a clearing, hidden in the shadows. There, in the center of the clearing, a ghastly sight unfolded. A group of villagers had formed a circle around a stone altar, their faces twisted in terror. In the center of the circle, a figure stood, cloaked in tattered robes. This figure, whom David presumed to be the village elder, raised his arms to the moonlit sky and chanted in a language that seemed ancient and otherworldly. The ground trembled, and David watched in horror as a dark, swirling mist began to envelop the altar. It twisted and contorted, taking on grotesque shapes, and seemed to pull at something unseen. Then, with a deafening crack, a building from the village was sucked into the vortex, vanishing without a trace. As the villagers continued their sinister ritual, David realized the truth. They were appeasing a malevolent spirit that demanded offerings. It was the disappearance of these buildings that kept the spirit at bay, and the villagers seemed resigned to their fate, sacrificing their homes to save their lives. Fear and curiosity warred within David as he watched the ritual unfold. The villagers were trapped in a cycle of terror, and he couldn't stand idly by. He had to find a way to stop this malevolent spirit and free the villagers from their perpetual nightmare. Over the next few days, David delved deeper into the village's history. He discovered an old, dusty journal hidden in the corner of the inn's attic. The journal, written by a former innkeeper, detailed the curse that had plagued Harrowbrook for generations. According to the journal, the village had made a pact with a malevolent spirit centuries ago. In return for protection, the spirit demanded offerings of buildings. The villagers believed that if they failed to make the sacrifice, the spirit would unleash a terrible curse upon the village, causing endless suffering. With newfound determination, David sought out the village elder, the enigmatic figure at the center of the ritual. He hoped to convince the elder that there had to be another way, a way to break free from the curse without sacrificing their homes. The elder, whose name was revealed to be Elias, was initially reluctant to speak with David. But as David recounted the history he had uncovered and the horrors he had witnessed, Elias's eyes flickered with a glimmer of hope. "Perhaps there is a way," Elias whispered, his voice heavy with doubt. "But we would need to confront the malevolent spirit directly, and it is a powerful and vengeful force." David and Elias hatched a plan. They would gather the villagers and perform a ritual to call forth the malevolent spirit, hoping to negotiate with it and seek a way to end the curse without further destruction. The night of the confrontation arrived, and the villagers gathered in the clearing once more. David and Elias stood at the center, surrounded by candles and ancient symbols drawn in the dirt. They began the incantation, calling out to the malevolent spirit with a mixture of fear and determination. The air grew thick, and a dark mist began to form, swirling and coalescing into a shape that was both terrifying and majestic. The malevolent spirit materialized before them, its eyes burning with an otherworldly fire. "Why have you summoned me?" the spirit hissed, its voice a haunting whisper. David stepped forward, his heart pounding. "We seek to end this curse. Is there no other way for the villagers to be free from your demands?" The spirit regarded him with an eerie, ethereal gaze. "There is only one way to break the curse," it replied. "One of you must take my place as the guardian of this village. You must become the vessel for my power, and in doing so, the curse will be lifted." Elias stepped forward, his voice trembling. "I will be the one to take your place. I have seen enough suffering in this village." The malevolent spirit nodded, its form shimmering. It moved towards Elias and entered his body, a pact sealed with a shiver that passed through the villagers. With the spirit's power now residing in Elias, the curse was lifted. The villagers, their faces etched with both relief and sorrow, watched as the vanished buildings reappeared, seemingly untouched by time. Life in Harrowbrook began to return to normal, though the memory of the malevolent spirit would forever haunt them. David, content with having helped the village break free from its curse, prepared to resume his travels. As he said his goodbyes to the villagers, he couldn't help but feel a lingering sense of unease. The eerie stillness that had once gripped the village had given way to an unsettling quiet, and the villagers' vacant eyes still haunted his dreams. He knew he would never forget the village of Harrowbrook, a place where the line between the living and the supernatural was thin, and where a traveler's curiosity had led him to uncover a malevolent spirit's dark secret. As he journeyed on, David couldn't help but wonder if there were other villages, hidden in the depths of the world, with secrets just as chilling as those of Harrowbrook, waiting to be uncovered by intrepid souls like himself.